we have not had an issue with parents. Of course, not being the head coach, the two guys I've worked for there, Dusty Delaney and now Justin Hoover.
Yeah.
I'm sure they've dealt with that stuff.
Oh, yeah. And Who's a great guy, too. Who's part of that whole Miege craziness,
He went
it
over
was
there.
It was neat to hang out with him and pick his brain every now and then. So he's another guy that was just fabulous. Those guys just put together such a great staff over there.
I know.
It was something.
One of my dream kind of show scenarios is to get Grunhard, Holmes, and Hoover in here and talk about when they started that thing and how bad it was and the development and all that.
It was
just kind of lead that panel and really just ask one question and get out of the way.
So were those guys, were all three of those guys there from the beginning?
I believe so.
Yes,
I believe they were all there that first year.
Was DJ there the first year too?
No, he was with me a year, I think, and then went over.
Okay.
Over there.
Yeah.
I remember. DJ has told a story to me, about one of the first times he was watching some Miege film with Tim after Tim had taken the job. Tim was kind of like, man, what did I get myself into here? These guys don't have anybody that's any good.
I'll tell you what, he went in there and he got the coaches on the straight and narrow, and he got the kids fell in line, and then it just kind of took off. And he had some. You're going to have some bruises and a few bumps, but he figured it out. He did a really good job.
Over your years of experience, just how hard it is to win at any level. I mean, the high school level on up, just and all the hours that go into it. I mean, when you said you were head coach of 3 sports at the same time, I look back at that and I'm like, man, I don't know how you did it.
Yeah. One thing I tell our coaches, all the assistant coaches, and and I tell our kids, and this, that people really have no idea what goes into winning a football game. You can sit there and we watch the Chiefs and Andy Reid, and unless you're walking in those shoes, you really have no idea what goes into the day-to-day. You can be an excited fan, you can love it, but unless you've walked in one of those guys' shoes for a while and a coach's shoes, it takes a lot. There's so many moving parts to it, that you have to be on top of. And like you said, the higher level you go, the crazier it gets. And guys guys in the NFL, it's just amazing. You have more support staff, but it's just so many moving parts that people just really have no idea what it takes to win a football game.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what's even more amazing about the Chiefs right now is, being in the AFC Championship last year, and people were like, well, they only lost on a penalty. But, I mean, it's so hard, and all the work that everybody in that organization has put in to get back
to recreate that.
Now win it, it's like, I mean, you get it because you've been there.
It's been crazy.
You've won, but
it's nuts. I had a little job there for a while. I was at Tim and I were actually at the Notre Dame camp, and a guy named John Kingdon. He's he was used to be, when Al Davis was alive, he's the director of scouting for Oakland, for the Raiders. And I worked. He hired me. I met him there, and they used to have a deal in the NFL where they had local scouts. So like every team might have a guy in every city that goes there. So my job was just to go, and crazy as big a Chiefs fan as I am, I kind of had a little side job with the Raiders. I would go there during the preseason, and then sometimes during the regular season, and I would kind of look at the free agents for them, and then I would call them after the preseason games, and I would kind of give them a little report on, this guy and whatever other guy and stuff like that. And it was an eye opener. Just I think one of the craziest times is when they got the big quarterback, DeMarcus Russell, I think it was. And I was totally down on this guy, and and they ended up drafting him. And I thought I was like the worst evaluator of talent on the planet. And
well,
then,
you turned out to look pretty smart there, right?
And then I turned around and looked pretty smart. So it's one of those things, and it seems like. But that was a nice little job and taught me a lot. Actually got yelled at by Al Davis one time, so great deal. I was at the Raiders were in town, and John he called me and said, "Hey, why don't you come meet us at our hotel and ride out to practice with us?" So I do, and I'm standing there on the field just soaking it up, loving every minute of it, on Arrowhead, and all of a sudden I hear this car pulls out of the tunnel almost down onto the field, and Al Davis gets out, and he yells at who the F is that guy on the field? And John Kingdon, my boss, runs over to Al, telling him, "Oh, he's our local scout." And then he's like, "He ain't got the right credentials and all this stuff." And I'm like standing there about to pee my pants because Al Davis is screaming at me. And
he was just mad that you were right about Jamarcus Russell.
Yes, right.
Yeah. You ever heard that story about Jamarcus Russell and the tapes they sent?
No.
Or this DVDs. You know this story?
Yeah, I've heard it.
I can't remember who. Anyways, was it the offensive coordinator that sent the?
Yeah, it was one of the coaching staff.
Somebody from the coaching staff said, they said, "Hey, Jamarcus, we got these DVDs. We need you to take home. We want you to review some of the plays. We're putting together the game plan for this week, and you let us know which plays you feel comfortable with that we're going to implement, and we'll start putting them in this week." And he's like, "All right, no problem, Coach." So he shows up the next day, and Coach says, I think it was the old coordinator. I think it was Anyways, they say, "Hey, Jamarcus, which of those plays did you like on that DVD? Whatever." And he was like, "All of them, Coach. I could do any of them. No problem. Let's throw them in." Well, the trick was they were blank. The DVDs were blank.
I just wanted to see.
Yeah,
I just wanted to see if he was going to watch them,
film.
and he did.
It was like red zone cutouts, or something.
Yeah.
And that's the only story you need to know to know why Jamarcus was a failure.
That's funny. I did that to our players one time. I put down because I had a feeling that they weren't reading their scouting report. So at the end of the scouting report, I said, "See Coach Byers for your $50 prize," and nobody came to get the $50 prize.
Yeah.
So I said, so we had a little running time. And I said, because none of you guys read your scouting report.
That's one thing, I want to kind of talk about is the way coaching has changed. Even when I got in 2003 was my first season, I still remember all of us coaches around one VCR watching a VHS tape.
Right.
Obviously you go back before that.
Super 8.
But, how has that helped coaches get better? But then what were the benefits of that, of watching it as a staff and breaking it down together?
And you know what? Huddle and Apex and all those services, they're so good, and it really helps. One of the things that I felt bad about that we actually lost was going to scout face-to-face. If I'm playing Shawnee Mission East, going to watch Shawnee Mission East and play, and standing down on the by the gate when players walk by to get that eye test and see, okay, that guy's a monster. This guy on film, he doesn't look that big, but he's huge, and those kind of things. That was one of the biggest takeaways that I felt that was really. But it just freed you up the video just frees you up to do so much more, and I think but being around that VHS and watching those films with each other and sharing that stuff, it made everybody. You knew everybody was on the game plan. Mm-hmm. Now you tell them, hey, make sure you get with your guys, watch your film, and you hope, and I spend so much time going back down that list, trying to see who's putting in the time, making sure they're watching film, and it's just it has its pluses and minuses, and I think it's taken away from the camaraderie of the coach a little bit, but it just it frees you up for other stuff.
Yeah.
But I just miss that scouting. Used to, and one of the other things was, when we got into the playoffs and you were playing somebody, Missouri 2A when we were there we were so spread out. We get ready to play in a playoff game, and you had to play Warsaw, and they were going on that 5-day spread, we had to make a copy of that videotape. We had to meet them halfway, you know, the old meet halfway, change that film, get home, dupe it off a couple of times, and make sure some of your assistants got it. Now, you know, you just click a button and they got it.
Film,
it's definitely freed you up, but there's a few aspects that you miss.
Yeah, I kind of miss the scouting piece too, you know, because I mean, obviously when I started, I was not a varsity coach. You know, Coach Hornbeck had the control of the 8 through 12, so I was actually an assistant 8th grade coach. But all of us 8th grade coaches, we had 4, and he would send 2 of us to one game every Friday, and 2 guys to another. So, and not that we were filming it, you know, or anything like that, but just go and, like you said, watch the eye test. Say, is that kid really, you know, a 4.8 kid, or is he more of like a 5.1?
Right, and it doesn't take you long to figure out who their stud is. You know, you're sitting there, and now you know number 51. That's the guy we got to take care of.
Yeah,
you know, and it's easier to tell when you're right there rather than on film sometimes. So, in that aspect, and it was always one of those things. Another camaraderie deal with your coaches. You go out and
because you'd see guys from other schools.
Oh yeah, they're all scouting the same guy, and if you got lucky enough to play on a Thursday, you could go watch all these guys on Friday, and so it was always that's a part. But huddles just changed the way the game is done.
And I mean, like you said, there's things I really love about huddle. I mean, I love that at 7 a.m. on Saturday morning, I'm not necessarily in the office,
right?
But I'm sitting there getting my piece done,
right?
You know, to which last year I did, like down and distance hash mark, things like that. And I'm marking all that so our defensive coordinator can put it all together.
Yeah.
But, sometimes, like I remember as a young coach just kind of sitting in the back of that room as those guys are watching film. And then later, maybe ask that guy, hey, what are you watching there?
Yeah.
Why did you ask him to run that back? Or, what
exactly.
are you looking for when you're watching this? I mean, I feel like that's an aspect, maybe these young guys don't get.
They don't get now.
Because you're all doing it on your own.
Right. And they all have access to it, and they all think, kind of played back into that a little bit where, you want to show what you know so much.
Yeah.
And so huddle now helps you. You guys like, hey, I know Coach, I got this all written down. I got every play breakdown. Like, okay, but, still there's things that you still got to, you still got to identify their best player. You still got to do other stuff. So definitely a good piece, but there's, there's things that we're still good about the other ways too, especially for old dinosaur like me, like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure, and I mean, like you said, a guy like Tim Grunhard watched film differently than probably, you did at the time, or probably even differently than I do now.
Right.
Just a guy who had done that at the highest level, for such a high level, for 10, 15 years with the Chiefs. I mean,
he used to blow me away. We'd sit there and watch film, and he'd stop it, and he'd go up and draw the whole play up. And because you know how sometimes you got to run it back and see who's blocking where.
Yeah.
He'd just watch that film, and he'd go up and draw the whole play up, and we'd just be all sitting there going. I'd run it back just so I could try and catch him. Like, you're wrong, but he was always right. So he's very, very knowledgeable and had a little crazy too. Made practice fun. So
yeah. I mean, just obviously, talking to DJ over the years, and him getting his start, kind of working under you, and then working under Tim. He's like, you don't know how it feels when you're the assistant O-line coach to a guy who already knows how O-line is going to play.
Yeah, exactly.
Kept him on his toes. It was good for him.
You have to ask DJ about the time when him and Tim went to Notre Dame for camp, and Tim and I are old. We're sitting there, and all the coaches were supposed to stay in the dorms and watch the kids. Tim and I stayed in the hotel. We made DJ stay in the dorm.
There you go.
And we gave him so we'd always have to come pick him up, and he was driving us around. So,
but give the young guy.
He definitely paid his dues. Because we always like, Tim said, I'm not staying in no dorm. And I said, I'm with you. So DJ was the one. He was our representative in the dorm. So
there you go.
Coach, I just want to you Click and St. Pius have had a good relationship over the last few years. We have become the broadcasting platform for St. Pius, and enjoyed working with you through soccer playoffs or football playoffs or whatever. Just wanted to say thank you. Still going to be doing that for a year or so more.